Hello students. Students, we are studying this 10th chapter of your syllabus. The name of the chapter is Human Health and Diseases. Now, by far in this chapter, we have completed more than half of this chapter. And then we are on this last part of the chapter where in the previous part, we studied about the common health disorders. So, we have studied about the common health disorders that are seen in humans. Now we studied that the human diseases, that means the diseases that are seen in humans, they are broadly categorized into two groups. They are congenital disease and acquired disease. So we have studied about the congenital and the acquired disease. Then we moved on to the common diseases that are seen in humans. The first one was malaria. Then we studied about amoebiasis and then ascariasis. Then we studied about filariasis, which is also known as elephantiasis. Then we studied about typhoid, pneumonia, common cold, ringworm, which is also known as dermatophytosis, and dengue fever. Now in this particular session, we are moving to the last part of this chapter and we'll finish this chapter. And we are studying the next disease, which is nowadays very commonly seen in humans, that is cancer. So what is cancer? It is abnormal, uncontrolled and purposeless division of cells in your body. And because there is this purposeless rapid division of cells in your body, this leads to a formation of mass of undifferentiated cells. And this mass of undifferentiated cell is known as tumor. Now this tumor, it is actually of two types. And when this tumor is of malignant type, it is described as cancer and it is having the ability to invade the other tissue, the normal tissues of your body. Now, as this tumor grows, it actually interferes with the normal functioning of your body and normal functioning of your organs of your body. And they also have the ability to release certain secretions that alter the functioning of your body. Now cancer, it harms the body when the cancerous cells divide uncontrollably and they form new lumps or new masses of tissue in your body. And this formation of this, this process of dividing uncontrollably and forming these masses of tissues is known as neoplasm. Now the tumor may develop anywhere in your body. All the tumors are not cancerous. Okay. Now this tumor, it has the ability to develop at any region or any part of your body, but all of these tumors are not cancerous. Tumors are of two types. It can be either benign or non-malignant tumor, or it can be malignant or cancerous tumor. So as I told you that malignant or cancerous tumor is fatal and this is having the ability to invade the other tissues of your body. Now let us study about both these types of tumors in detail and then we'll see the basic difference between the two. So benign or non-malignant tumor, they grow slowly. That means their growth rate is very slow, but they are large in size. Now as they grow very slow and they are large in size, they remain restricted to the site of origin. That means this tumor cells from the origin, from the site where they are originating, they become restricted to that area only. They do not spread in your body. Okay, but some of them, they become very harmful and therefore they become fatal. Now when do they become harmful and fatal? When it is not diagnosed and when it is not treated at a very early stage. If it is diagnosed and treated at a very early stage, this can be removed and it can be cured. But if it reaches a certain stage where it cannot be, treated, it becomes fatal for the human body. The example of this benign or non-malignant tumor is brain tumor. Now brain tumor at a very initial stage, it can be treated as I told you. But when it reaches a particular stage where it cannot be reversed back, at that particular time it becomes fatal. Now how does it become fatal? Because the brain actually gets squeezed between the tumor cell, the large growing tumor cell, as I told you that it is very large in size. So it gets squeezed between the large size of tumor and the hard skull. Okay, so the brain actually gets squeezed between these two parts and that is how brain tumor is then fatal. So some of the benign tumor also becomes malignant. That means some of the benign tumor may become malignant tumor. That means they can become cancerous tumor. The example is adenoma and fibroid. So as I told you, if it is cured and it is detected in a very early stage of your formation of that tumor, it can be removed, it can be cured. But once it reaches a stage where it cannot be cured, then it becomes fatal, or then it turns into a malignant form. Next is malignant or cancerous tumor, and here the malignant or the cancerous tumor, their growth rate is very rapid, and because their growth rate is rapid, the mortality rate is also more. Now, rapid growth of tumor causes overcrowding of these tumor cells or the malignant cancerous cells, and as they overcrowd, they disrupt or they disturb the normal cells of your body. So if you can see over here, the pink color cells are the cancer cells, whereas the orange ones are the normal cell. So if you can see that there is overcrowding of this cancerous cell, and because there is this overcrowding of the cancerous cells, the normal functioning of these normal cells, they get disturbed, and these both cells actually then compete for the nutrition in the body. And what happens finally is the normal cells, they get killed, and then the cancerous cell overpower these normal cells. And then once they overpower, these cells spread from one organ to other organ of your body via the body fluid. Okay, and as they spread from one organ to another organ, they form new cell masses, and these new cell masses are known as secondary tumor. Okay, now this process of formation of secondary tumor from the primary tumor, this process is known as metastasis. So this is the basic difference between benign or non-malignant tumor and malignant and cancerous tumor. Now let us now study about the cancerous tumor, and let us see the types of cancer. So there are 5 types of cancer according to the tissues that they are affected, and it is named according to the tissue from where it arises or from where it originates. The first one is carcinoma, and this arises from the epithelial tissue which is covering the lining of your body, and that is how it is known as carcinoma. Now this type of cancer, it includes breast cancer, lung cancer, stomach cancer, skin cancer, etc. Okay, so carcinoma type of cancer, it arises from the epithelial tissue that is covering the lining of different body organs. Okay, so as you can see that this carcinoma type of cancer, it includes breast cancer, it includes lung cancer, stomach cancer, skin cancer, etc. Okay, next is sarcoma. Sarcoma arises from the connective tissue. Okay, so it includes bone tumor, which is known as osteosarcoma. Then there is cancer of cartilage, which is known as chondrosarcoma. Then there is cancer of adipose tissue, which is known as liposarcoma. Okay, so these are the 2 types. The next type is lymphoma. As the name says, it arises from the lymphatic tissue of your body, and it occurs in the lymphatic nodes, spleen, and other tissues of the immune system. So if you see, these are the stages of lymphoma. Stage 1, it will appear in the neck region, then the armpit region, then it will appear in spleen and the liver region, and then the groin region. And that is how it spreads, and it gets settled into the lymphatic nodes or lymphatic tissues of your body. Next one is leukemia, and it is a type of blood cancer. What happens over here? There is excessive formation of WBC or leukocytes in the bone marrow. Okay, so people suffering from leukemia have very high WBC count. So this becomes a classical symptom of leukemia. If in the blood report the WBC count is very high, it is extremely high, then it can be diagnosed as leukemia cancer. Okay, and then this very high WBC count is incapable of fighting the infection in your body. So leukemia are of various types. It can be monocytic, it can be lymphoblastic leukemia. This was leukemia. Then is adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma is the cancer arising from the glandular tissues of your body. That means the cancers that are arising from thyroid, the pituitary gland, the adrenal glands, and other glandular tissues of your body. So these are the 5 types of cancer: carcinoma, which arises from the epithelial tissue; sarcoma, that arises from the connective tissue; lymphoma, that arises from the lymphatic tissue; leukemia is a type of blood cancer; and adenocarcinoma, which is a cancer arising from the glandular tissue. Next, causes of cancer. Now there are several factors which is known to be cancer causing, or they are known as carcinogenic factors, and these factors are as follow. The first one is chemicals. So excess use of chemical can cause cancer, or excess exposure to these chemicals can cause cancer. Then there are some chemicals given over here which actually cause cancer. First one is nicotine, then caffeine, and several products of combustion of coal and oil, polycyclic hydrocarbons. Then there are also some sex hormones and steroids. So if these chemicals, they are given or secreted in the body in large amount, they cause cancer. Now breast cancer, it seems to have hormonal relationship, usually observed in women who avoid breastfeeding. So again, hormone is something that is secreted in your body. Okay, so breast cancer, it seems to have a hormonal relationship. There may be over secretion of something in your some hormone in your body that results into breast cancer. And breast cancer, it is usually observed in women who avoid breastfeeding. Okay, so these are the chemical, one factor, that is chemical, that causes cancer. Next is radiations. So X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic rays, UV rays, these are the rays that causes cancer, and that is how it is said that excessive X-rays, excessive going through these X-rays causes cancer. So you shouldn't very frequently take X-rays of your body, because those rays are actually harmful. It is a radiation which is very harmful for your body. Then incidence of skin cancer, it is very common in people nowadays, and it is very common in people working in sunny areas. And why is it very common? Because there is UV radiation from the sunlight. Okay, so these UV radiation, they directly come to the skin, or the skin is exposed directly to this UV radiation, which causes skin cancer. Viruses are also one factor causing cancer. They have genes called as viral oncogenes, or V-onc-genes, or these viruses are known as oncogenic viruses. Example is EBV and HPV virus. So it is Epstein-Barr virus and human papilloma virus. So these are the two viruses that causes cancer. Next, let us study about oncogenes. Now these are known as cellular oncogenes, or CONC genes, or proto-oncogenes, that have been identified in normal cells, which one gets, when it gets activated under certain condition, could lead to oncogenic transformation of the cells. Okay, so these oncogenes are actually present in normal cells, and if these genes, they get activated in these normal cells of your body, they get transferred into, they get transformed into oncogenic cells. Then addiction is also one factor which causes cancer. So different types of addiction like smoking, chewing tobacco, leads to cancer of mouth, lips and lungs, that is nicotine. Alcohol consumption may lead to cancer of esophagus, stomach or liver, and drugs like marijuana, anaerobic steroids also causes cancer. So these are the factors that cause cancer. The first one is chemical, radiation, then there are certain viruses, then there are certain genes which are known as oncogenes, and then it is also addiction. Now speaking about the treatment of cancer, there are various treatments of cancer. The first one is chemotherapy. So chemotherapy, it comprises of administration of certain anti-cancerous drugs, and the anti-cancer drugs check the cell division by inhibiting the DNA synthesis, or are more toxic to cancer cells than the normal cells. Now chemotherapy may lead to hair loss or anemia, but both these problems, they get cured or they get corrected after the treatment is stopped. Then the next treatment is radiotherapy. Now radiotherapy, it is used in addition to chemotherapy. And in radiotherapy, the basic principle of this therapy is to bombard the cancerous cells with certain rays. Okay, and these rays are from radioactive materials. Now for treatment, the cancer tissues or cells are exposed to radiations from radioactive materials such as cobalt, iridium and iodine. The rays, X-rays, gamma rays and charged particles are used to destroy the cancer tissues or cancer cells, but it may cause minimum damage to the surrounding tissues or cells. Then the next treatment is via surgery. So in surgery, the entire cancerous tissue or the cancerous cell is removed, and it has very limited utility. In certain cases, such as breast tumor or uterine tumor, the surgery is more effective, but other treatments are also given to kill any other cancerous cells that may have escaped from this surgery. Okay, then it is immunotherapy. This is the fourth treatment, that is immunotherapy. Here the tumor cells have been shown to avoid detection and destruction by immune system. Therefore the patient are given substances which is called as biological response modifiers such as alpha interferons. And these alpha interferons, they activate the immune system and help in destroying the tumor. And the last one is supportive therapy. Supportive therapy, it is used to treat symptoms of cancer and side effects of cancer treatments. And the objective of this particular supportive therapy is to improve the quality of life of a cancer patient. Now this therapy, it varies depending upon the condition of the individual patient. So these are the 5 types of treatment that are given to cancer patients. Next, let us move to the next disease, that is AIDS. So AIDS, which is known as the full form of AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, and it is usually fatal illness which is caused by retrovirus ssRNA, and it is known as human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, that is HIV. It is abbreviated as HIV. Now this virus, it weakens the body immune system, and as the immune system of a particular human, it is weakened, it leaves the human or the victim vulnerable to life. So there are certain life-threatening infections, neurological disorders and unusual malignance that becomes fatal for that particular human. Now AIDS can be called as a modern pandemic which is worldwide, and it is affecting both the industrialized and developing countries. Now in USA, first case of AIDS, it was noticed in the year 1981, and in India it was first confirmed in April 1986, and the case was from Tamil Nadu. So this was the basic idea about the disease AIDS. Now speaking about the structure of HIV, HIV is about 100 to 140 nanometers in diameter, and it is spherical in shape. This is the structure of the HIV virus. And the virus particle shows central located 2 ssRNA. So if you can see this, these are the 2 centrally located ssRNA, usually with reverse transcriptase enzyme. Okay, they are with reverse transcriptase enzyme, and it is covered by 2 layers of protein. The outer layer is of matrix protein, that is P17. This is the outer layer, the blue color beaded structure that you can see. This is the outer layer, and the inner layer is made up of capsid protein, that is P24. So this is the inner layer, which is made up of the capsid protein. Now over the matrix protein, there is an additional layer of lipid impregnated with glycoprotein, that is GP120 and GP41. So this is GP120 and this is GP41. So over this matrix protein, there is this additional layer of lipid impregnated with glycoproteins. Now this virus replicates in actively dividing T4 lymphocytes and can remain in the latent stage in your body or the lymphoid cells. Now the greatest concentration is seen in blood, semen and cerebrospinal fluid, that is CSF, and lesser concentration is seen in tears, milk, urine, saliva and cervical and vaginal secretion. So this was about the structure of HIV virus. Mode of transmission, there are about 4 important or the main modes of transmission of this virus. The first one is unsafe sexual contact. Now this includes oral, vaginal or anal sexual contact. Blood is again the second mode of transmission. So via blood transfusion or sharing of needles, it can be transmitted. Then from mother to child, that is transplacental. So a pregnant woman can transmit the virus to her fetus through their shared blood circulation. Okay, or a nursing mother can transmit the virus to the baby from her breast milk. Okay, so it can be transferred from the mother to the child. Then other method of spreading this virus are rare and it includes accidental needle injury. Then there is artificial insemination, which infected with the infected donated semen, and transplantation with infected organ. Okay, so these are the mode of transmission of this virus. Signs and symptoms. The clinical symptom of AIDS have been classified into 4 broad categories. The initial infection with the virus and formation of antibodies, usually 2 to 8 weeks after initial infection. Then asymptomatic carrier stage. In this stage, no signs of disease are seen, and the incubation period of this particular disease in your body can range from 6 months to 10 years. So even if the virus is there in your body for about 6 months to 10 years, this is the incubation period. So the person may not even know that a particular virus is present in his or her body for about 10 years. Then the next stage is AIDS related complex, ARC, which is one or more of the following clinical signs. Then the signs are recurrent fever for longer than 1 month. Then there is fatigue, unexplained diarrhea, night sweats, shortness of breath, loss of more than 10% of the body weight, etc. So these are the clinical signs which are seen in this third stage of AIDS. Then AIDS is the end stage of the HIV infection. It is categorized by life-threatening opportunistic infections like pneumonia, tuberculosis, Kaposi sarcoma. So these are the last or the end stage of HIV infections. Then if we speak about the preventive measures, AIDS, it has no cure, and hence you can say that prevention is always the best choice over here. The following are the steps that help in preventing from this dreadful disease. The first one is people particularly which are on a high risk of acquiring this kind of disease or which are into this high risk groups should be educated with HIV transmission. Then disposable needles and syringes should be used, and it should be disposed of properly and immediately after one use. Then sexual habits should be changed immediately. Then high risk groups should refrain from donating blood. So the people who come in high risk groups of acquiring this disease should always refrain from donating blood. Then toothbrushes, razors and other articles, these personal articles, it should becomes contaminated. It should become an habit of not using or not sharing these kind of articles with other people. And before receiving the blood, one should ensure that it has been screened for not containing any HIV infections. Then there should be routine screening that must be done for blood donors. Then organ donors, like if a person is donating kidney, liver, lung, cornea. Then the donors of the semen and growth hormones. Then the patients undergoing hemodialysis, and females in high risk groups who are pregnant or contemplating pregnancy. So these are the 4 groups where there has to be a routine screening for this particular disease. Next, about the diagnosis of this disease, the first test is ELISA test, that is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, and this is to detect the HIV antibodies in the body, in a human body. And the second test is the confirmatory test, which is known as Western blot test, and it is a highly specific test. It is based on detecting specific antibodies to viral core proteins and annular glycoproteins. So there are 2 tests. One is the first is the preliminary test, that is ELISA test, and then the second one is the confirmatory test, that is Western blot test. Treatment, there is no particular cure, complete cure to this disease, but there are certain medicines which is known as antiretroviral drugs, which actually helps in reducing the viral load, and they prolong the life of HIV patients. The examples of these drugs are antiretroviral therapy, ART, and TDF, that is tenofovir. Then there is EFV, that is efavirenz, and lamivudins, that is 3-TC. So these are the drugs that are used for prolonging the life of an HIV patient. Then the last part of this chapter is adolescence. So adolescence, it is a period of being with the appearance of secondary sexual characters and termination of body growth. So at this stage, at the adolescent stage, the body growth, it terminates and there is appearance of secondary sexual characters. Now it can also be regarded as a transitional stage of physical, mental development of child occurring between puberty and legal adulthood, that is between 10 to 19 years of age. Now in this age, the individual is no longer a child, but yet the individual is not yet an adult. So it is an in-between stage between being a child and being an adult. The stages of adolescence, adolescent are defined as individuals between 10 to 19 years of age group, and the government of India in its national youth policy defines adolescents as 13 to 19 years. Okay, so that is how we say that when the 13 starts, we say that it is a teenage, and this teenage is still 19 years. So this is actually the adolescent age. Now the adolescents are divided into 3 stages. The early period, that is 10 to 14 years. In this particular period, there are changes including beginning of the appearance of secondary sexual characters, and the growth reaches to its peak, by 14th year. And there is rapid physical growth, concrete thinking. Then there is defining boundaries of dependence and independence. And there is self-exploration that takes place in a particular individual. And then there is also developing of body image. So these are all the changes that take place in this early period of 10 to 14 years. Then there is middle period, that is 15 to 17 years. In this period, it is categorized by almost complete full development of secondary sexual characters, and the growth now slows down, and approximately 95% of the adult stature is actually attained by this age. At this age, the thinking of that particular individual, it becomes more abstract. Then there is concrete thinking under stressful condition. Then there is also a development of a sense of leadership and all powerfulness. Then the peer group, at this age, the peer group helps in defining the behavioral code. So the peer group actually defines your behavioral code. The peer you be with, hang out with, actually they define your behavioral code at this age. Then there is late period, that is 18 to 19 years, and it is categorized by establishment of total physical maturity. So a complete physical maturity is established. Then there is abstract thinking that happens. Intellectual and functional identity is also obtained. Then the peer groups, it recedes in favor of individual relationship. Then there are stable relationships that are maintained, and there is change from childhood to an adulthood relationship. Then the physical changes in adolescence is growth spurt that occurs in both boys and girls. Now in boys, the muscles they develop, skin becomes oily. Then there is broadening of shoulders, cracking of voice, development of underarm and chest hair, and also pubic hair. There is facial hair, and then there is enlargement of the sex organs. In girls, there is development of breast, widening of hips, development of underarm and pubic hair, then also there is enlargement of their sex organs. Now, sexual development, the next physical development is the sexual development. So, sex organs they mature and enlarge in boys, and in females, ovulation, menstruation, and initiation of sexual behavior takes place. Next physical growth is emotional and social change, and this includes establishing own identity. Then there are fantasies, daydreaming, attention-seeking behavior that is seen. There is emotional instability, which is full of energy. Sexual attraction is seen, and there is rapid mood swings that takes place. And because of these rapid mood changes, there are conflicts in families which is seen. Then there is behavioral code, self-exploration, and this behavioral code is influenced again by the peer group that you hang out with. And there is formation of new relationship and peer pressure. So all these are the changes that takes place in an adolescent stage. Now speaking about the mental health of adolescents, now mental illness is associated with psychological and behavioral manifestation. And these are actually broadly classified either as psychosis or neurosis. Psychosis, it includes delusions, hallucinations, then there is disturbance of thinking process. The psychosis leads to Alzheimer's disease, it leads to depressive psychosis, then there is amnesia, which is loss of memory, bulimia, which is extreme overindulgence of food. Then there is anxiety, depression, sadness, inactivity in life, which is induced to enjoy life. Then neurosis includes schizophrenia, which is very common nowadays, illusions and hallucination. So in neurosis, it is actually a chronic debilitating neuropsychiatric condition, and the characteristics are like thinking perception, this distortion in the thinking perception, emotional language and behavior. So the people who are suffering from schizophrenia, they are deficient in attention, concentration and memory in central to the clinical condition. Now common experience includes hallucination, like hearing voice or seeing something which is not present. Then the last part is addiction. Now this is a complex condition categorized by compulsive use of substances despite of their harmful consequences. And addiction may involve the use of substances like drugs such as alcohol, opioids, cocaine, nicotine and other things. Now addiction leads to drug abuse, and survey and statistics shows that the use of these drugs and alcohols, it has been on a rise, especially amongst the youth. And this is really a cause of concern as it could result in many harmful effects. Now, proper education and guidance would actually enable the youth to safeguard themselves against these dangerous behavioral patterns and follow healthy lifestyle. Now, the drugs which are involved are commonly opioids, cannabinoids, alkaloids of coca. Let us study about these drugs. Opioids are the drugs which binds the opioid receptor present in the central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract. Now it is extracted from the latex of poppy plant. Okay, so the poppy plant, which is Papaver somniferum, and which is also known as heroin, it is depressant and it slows down the activity of the body. Then the next one is cannabinoids, which interact with the receptor present in the brains. Inhalation and ingestion of these substances affect the cardiovascular system of your body. They are obtained from the inflorescence of the parts of cannabis sativa. Marijuana, hashish, charas, ganja are different forms of drugs which are obtained from the same plant. Then the next drug is cocaine, which is this is an alkaloid obtained from coca plant, that is Erythroxylum coca, and it increases the level of neurotransmitter dopamine, and its excessive dosage causes extreme happiness, irritability, and paranoia, that is delusions of ill treatment. And the last one is hallucinogens, which is mind expanding drugs, which are also known as mind expanding drugs. And these are alkaloids causing daydreaming. Lysergic acids and cannabis are also hallucinogenic substances, which are obtained from Atropa belladonna and Datura species. And they have hallucinogenic properties. Now, hallucination are unreal. They are perception of unreal objects due to the disorders of nervous system. Now, the age-old proverb of prevention is better than cure, it holds true for all of these addictions, and it is actually the main preventive measures against all of these drug abuses. It is also true that the habits such as smoking, taking drugs or alcohols are more likely to be taken up at a youth age. So, or you can say more during the adolescent stage. So it is best to identify the situation at this stage that push an adolescent towards use of drugs and alcohols, and to take expected remedial measures against them. And for this, the parents and the teachers play the special responsibility. So students, we end this chapter over here. We have studied about health, human health, the basics of human health. We have studied about antigens, antibodies. We have studied about the common health disorders that are seen in humans. And then we have studied about the adolescent stage and the changes that takes place in adolescent stage. So we end this chapter here. In the next session, we may start with the new chapter, that is the 11th chapter, or we may also start with your biology practicals.